Hello, everybody out in YouTube land. This is Chef Stephanie for our Tuesday savory dish. And today we're going to be making vegan tapas sesame beef and squash bites. Now, some of you know me that I am a junkie, literally a junkie for tapas or little finger food or things that you can serve quickly and easily and that are great for parties because I'm the chatty Cathy, I'm the talky person. And I really don't like to, I love to interact with my guests and I don't want to always be in the kitchen and doing a lot of work. I'd like to do a lot of stuff on the front end and prep ahead of time and then be able to enjoy my company. So this is something that I've made time and time again for friends and family. It's something that's really fantastic for vegans and omnivores alike. Also, children love it. So it's kind of a really intense flavor bomb and I'm going to show you how to do it now. So you want to start off with the butternut squash. Now, I've already completed this step because you have to bake it, it takes a while, but I want to talk to you when you're actually purchasing your butternut squash. So these are the long ones, the ones that are about this big. You want to look for ones that actually have a longer neck, and a longer neck because in the neck, that's where there are no seeds. Down in the bottom is where all the seeds are. So make sure you find one that has a long neck and a short, stubby bottom. Okay, and then of course, this is what it looks like inside. So the recipe says you want to cut them to be about 7 or 8 millimeters thick, and which is about a ½ inch. And then you just want to put them on you just put them on a baking tray, and then all you do is just drizzle olive oil all over them, okay? So just on one side, and then sprinkle a little bit of salt. So you don't need to flip them over, just do the olive oil on one side. Then bake them for about 10 to 12 minutes in a 400 Fahrenheit or 200 Celsius oven for about 10 or 12 minutes. Flip them over, and you can see how they're just getting a little bit golden brown there, just a teeny weeny bit. That's perfect. So you can see how thin they are, how thick they are, and this is perfect. Now, I will show you at the end when we're making this dish. These actually are a little bit bigger than I normally like because these are a little bit too big to be finger food. These are almost like mini pizzas, so you know they're just a little bit too much. I like to make things that are a little bit smaller, more like one bite in your mouth. So I'm going to show you how to turn these into smaller bite-sized pieces later. Okay. Now, but we have to make our sesame beef. So now come on down here. I'm going to show you. We're actually going to be using texturized soy. And here I have this pan that is heating up. And so you want to do this over medium to medium-high heat. And all I have here is the texturized soy. Now you want to make sure that the texturized soy that you have is a fine grain. Ah, Jessica says she loves this dish. Oh. We're happy to have you try it, Jess. And let me get my pan on here. So we're going to be using just a little bit of mild vegetable oil. We use sunflower oil here. Makes it really easy. You can use olive oil if you like, but I prefer using a mild vegetable oil. If you really want to infuse a ton of flavor, you can use sesame oil, but it's really intense, so you might want to use just a couple of drops of the sesame oil. And then actually the rest use the milder vegetable oil. Because too much sesame oil will overpower this dish. There are a lot of complementary flavors, and the sesame can just take over and be a little bit too intense. So now I'm just going to be adding a little bit of the oil to my pan here. Get this moved around a little bit. Heating up my oil. Now, you want to have your pan be nice and hot, which I had mine heating before I brought you all online. And a lot of you might have used texturized soy in the past, but a lot of times people hydrate it straight away. We don't want to do that. We're actually going to be keeping some of the texture, so that's why we're putting it we're kind of like calling it like dry frying it. And I'm just going to be heating this up. And you want to watch this. You can see with the oil, it makes it a little bit more golden. And you want to just keep heating this, but you don't want to let it burn. So we're just going to watch this. In the meantime, I want to talk to you about the different types of flavors we're going to be putting on here. Remember, we are making beef. So here at Vegan Gastronomy, we do teach, in some of our classes, we teach how to make something called a beef seasoning mix. So either come to our level 1 class, or you can make your own from recipes you find. So it's your choice. So in the recipe, I have a spice mix. So now you want to think of things that you're going to be pairing that normally pair with meat, or things that you like in your own mouth. Now, something that is really easy, if you don't have your beef mix, you can absolutely also use like a bouillon cube. So these are very low salt. We do put salt in our beef mix, so you have to add salt as needed. So that's why it's really important to try this, taste this dish as you are building it up. But if you don't have a bouillon cube and you don't have any beef seasoning, you can make your own. So for example, you might just go into your spice cabinet and see what you like. Now, of course, something that's really basic, it works a lot of times with meat, is garlic. Some other flavors are things like cumin. If you're spicy like I am, you can use a little bit of chili. You can also add things like parsley, basil, whatever you like. You can use rosemary, you can go out to your own garden. I recommend using dry in this, but you could use we're going to use some fresh herbs at the very end. Now I'm going to show you here, this is actually starting to get a little bit golden, and then going on to a little bit of a darker brown. So you want to prevent this from going black. So I'm almost happy with this here. Just a little bit more. In fact, I'm going to put just a teeny bit more oil here. Just a little more. Again, you have to watch this, as my mother would say, watch this like a hawk. So you have to really monitor this closely. And then all I'm going to do is in the recipe it says 1 to 2 tablespoons. So again, it's your choice as to how big and bold and how flavorful you want this, or how mild. So I have 2 tablespoons. I did use 1 tablespoon of the beef seasoning. Then I pumped it up with some garlic, and I added some cumin. And then now we're going to mix this up. And now I'm going to be adding the water. It's almost like I'm deglazing this, but yeah, so this is going to help keep the texture in our beef. Now remember, the texturized soy comes in different shapes throughout the world. I know some of my students have a hard time sourcing the small size. If you can only get the larger size where you are, don't worry. You can put it like in a NutriBullet, you can put it in a dry blender, make sure it's dry. Put it in a dry blender and grind it up. So it's actually, you don't want to pulverize it into a powder. You still want it to be a little bit chunky, but you can create a smaller shape in your own kitchen. So all we're going to do is now, you can drop this a little bit down temperature-wise, and now we're just going to let this go until all of the liquid evaporates. And it doesn't take long, especially when it's this small size, not long at all. Put this down a little bit lower. There we go. Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about the other flavors that we're going to be putting into this dish. As I mentioned, remember, this is very big and bold and flavorful. So we have the beef here. What was your inspiration for this unique Asian tapas dish? Inspiration was that people just love Japan, people love India, people love things that are sweet and savory, and people love meat. So it was really just something that came about. I love butternut squash. We're going to be using some tahini, which is the sesame bit here. And that's it. So I wish I had a better answer. That doesn't sound very good, but that's the true answer. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how to build this dish up with the actual size of my enormous butternut squash here. But then I'm going to show you a little interesting technique as well. So all you want to do is just put one of your squashes down. And then now you want to grab about a tablespoon. Now, so this will be nice to serve on a nice brunch table. So you put, I want to put it, so because you want to see some of the butternut squash around it. We're still looking for the visual. And then now we're going to come back. We have the big, bold flavor of tahini. So tahini is just a fancy term for sesame butter. It's just ground up sesame seeds into a paste. You want to make sure that you don't get the flavored tahini. So sometimes, for example, here in Greece, it's so popular that they put honey in it. So I'm not looking for any flavored tahini. And you do want to make sure that you mix it up well, because as many of you know, if you don't mix it up, you just have all the oil on top. So now I'm just going to drizzle some of this on here in a nice, fun, funky pattern. And then now I'm going to be putting on just a little bit of marinated ginger. So this is the same ginger that often comes on your table when you go to eat Japanese sushi. So this is marinated. You can make your own. It's totally fine. Let's see, in Australia, Asian fusion dishes are very popular because they're so close geographically. Yes, it appeals to you. Nice. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the ginger on top. Yes. Yes, Jessica is she's a lover of lots of Asian food. So this has already, I have a lot of fat that I've created in the tahini or the sesame paste. So there's fat and there's acid from this marinated ginger. We have some sweet in the ginger as well. And then of course the butternut squash is sweet. And then I'm going to be putting on, just to make this really fresh, just a little bit of cilantro. Now, some people hate cilantro, about 10% of the population, so don't fret. If you hate cilantro, you could absolutely use basil or parsley, but cilantro is the way that I traditionally did this dish. And so there you have one. But now I'm going to show you, again, this is a little bit big to pick up and eat by yourself. It's bigger than one mouthful. So I want to show you a way that if you want to, you can actually make this even easier to eat. And you can just, this is a form here that we use, for example, to make, it's about, I don't know how many, this is about 2.5 inches. And so you just want to push this down. Now, so there you make a complete circle. Beautiful. And so these are going to all be the same size. With these scraps, you can make a stir fry, you can make a soup, you can put it into salad, you can put it in a sanga, as Jessica from Australia says, do anything you want with it. So don't get rid of these rings. In fact, looking at them, you could actually even you could bread them, crumb them, and fry them. They'd be like, imagine that, Jess. Imagine butternut squash rings in the fryer with you could drizzle balsamic glaze on them. Wouldn't that be fun? Very decadent. So I just have these. I think they're just a little bit nicer, smaller shaped. And then you're going to just do the same thing. All you're going to do is, get this out of the way. We're just going to use a little bit less of the meat. And these are a little bit easier to pick up. They're still about a 2-bite. You could absolutely make a smaller form, but these are about a 2-bite. So easy, so quick. And like I mentioned, you can make these ahead of time. You can prep all this. You can have all of your squash made ahead of time, your beef made ahead of time, and then all you want to do is you would just prep all these things separately and then just assemble it right before your people come over. This is great for a picnic. I would just keep all your things separate, and then you could assemble it at your picnic site, or you could do them, just be careful when you're transporting them. All right. So there you go. That's the fancy version. This is if you're trying to impress your date version, or maybe somebody who's first time to your house. There we have, what do we call them? Vegan tapas, sesame Thai beef, and squash bites. Yes. So, okay, I'm going to show you now. Literally, let's see. I have a pretty big mouth. Let me see if I can get one in. See if I can get a whole one in. No, maybe not. Yes. One in the mouth. You can make any combination of spices you want. You can add more heat, mix it up. The sky's the limit, but this is the inspiration to have your squash, your beef, the ginger, the fresh. Remember, if you don't like cilantro, put basil or parsley or anything you want. But I hope this has inspired you to do something a little bit out of your comfort zone. And maybe, just maybe, you can get your kids or family members or somebody who's never tried vegan food to try this. And if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday for more savory dishes. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow because Jessica is going to be doing some incredible sweet muffins. Thanks for watching.